And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis.
Oh, my God.
Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American football is finally the one. American football has won the Triple Crown.
And Bonds hits way high. It's a deep. It is out of here.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson, and the Dodgers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good election day, Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Darren Goldwater is to the right of your screen. I am Jamie, and we're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon. And between now and then, we have plenty to get to with Gene Sapikoff and Perry Orth set to join us this afternoon. A bunch on the Gamecocks, including the quarterback situation. We'll talk about Clemson. How about Trevor Lawrence not playing at Notre Dame? How much will that affect his Heisman Trophy chances to win the Heisman Trophy this year? We got some baseball news. We got some NFL news. And we got a whole bunch more, so we hope you'll stick around for the next couple of hours. Maybe you're standing in line to vote. If you are, hopefully we can entertain you while you're doing that. You can watch and listen to the program by downloading the all-new JB and Goldwater app on the or inside of the Apple Store, inside of the Google Play Store. If you're an Android user, you can head to jbandgoldwatershow.com as well for tons on our about our program. Mm-hmm. And in that app, just in case you've forgotten, you can purchase the JB and Goldwater season ticket. And today, I dropped episode 2 of the all-new miniseries Gamecock Talk with JB and friends, and you'll have some access to that. A little intel on Luke Doty and some good things to look forward to as far as A&M and the Gamecocks go coming up this weekend. But 843-321-8893 is our phone number and our text line. And we would invite you to shoot us a text. If you got something to say, give us a call as well on Twitter at JB and Goldwater across all social media, and at Sports Radio JB at Darren Goldwater individually. And now I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, so I'll turn it over to you, my friend. What's up?
Welcome back, man.
No. I'm like, yeah, what am I supposed to say here?
It's a good day. I mean, with all the early voting that went on, I made the conscious decision. All right, there's people waiting in 2-hour-long lines to vote early, and typically where I vote, it's not normally that bad. I got in line at 7:20. I was in line for Chick-fil-A by 7:50. So in and out voting, fantastic. Getting my little egg and cheese biscuit, and I'm good to go.
Well, I will say where I vote, I dropped the kids off, and I thought, oh man, I had so much to do this morning.
Yeah.
Because I have not been here since Wednesday. Literally, when I got off the air on Wednesday, I picked up the kids, and then we went to the airport. So I had so much to do. I was like, I'm going to go just see what it looks like. I pulled in, and it was like 8:36, I think, is you texted me about something. And then I was walking out of the door at 8:43.
Yeah, nice and easy.
It was unbelievable.
Nice and easy.
It was unbelievable. So hopefully you're all exercising the greatest American rights that we have, and that is and are your voting rights. Hopefully you've gone out there and done that or plan to do so today or whatever it is. But as we're not going to – we do have a fun little voting game we're going to play today. We got a couple questions Darren and I will kind of play back and forth with. I'm not one of these guys that's going to cut on the mic and use my platform to tell you what to do with your life. I don't really care what you do with your life. So, but I will say this. Don't complain about anything unless you vote. If you didn't vote, I don't care which way you vote. But don't complain about it unless you voted. I don't
you don't have a right.
I don't want to hear it.
You don't have a right.
That's right. Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
No.
I just don't want to hear it. So go out and do what you need to do today, and hopefully we can entertain you as you do your American duties on this Tuesday afternoon. We are going to check in, it looks like, with the Will Muschamp press conference at 12:30. And we're going to try to air some of that live here on our program today. So if you're listening or watching our program, you might hear Coach Muschamp's voice coming up here in just a little bit. That will be live. That will not be anything that has been taped or pre-recorded or anything like that. So hang tight. He's coming up in about 25 minutes or so, Darren. And the rumors have been flying around up there in Columbia. What a great week for football in the Palmetto State.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've got Notre Dame and Clemson. You got, South Carolina with the 7th-ranked team in the country in town this weekend. You got an undefeated Coastal program that's back on the gridiron this weekend. You got the Citadel. They've got an override to play 8 games in the spring, and they got some really good news. So it's a great week if you're a fan of football right here in the Palmetto State. And then over the last couple of days, we've kind of seen these, as it pertains to South Carolina specifically, we've kind of seen these rumors swirling that, maybe Luke Doty's going to get the start this week. If you've already listened to Gamecock Talk today, then you know what I'm about to say. But that's not what I've heard. That's not what I've heard at all, actually. Here's what I have heard. I have heard that Luke Doty has made enormous strides in Columbia as a quarterback. And I do think that you will see him at quarterback at some point in time in the next couple of weeks. Now, I don't think Luke Doty is going to be the starting quarterback. I have not heard that. Will Muschamp could step to the podium in 25 minutes and tell everybody that we're wrong, those of us that are saying that Colin Hill is going to continue to be the starter for Carolina football. Will – who knows what he's going to say? You never know. But from what I have heard, that's not the case. There were a ton of reps given to Luke Doty last week. There were also a ton of reps given to Ryan Helinski last week. And that is what they always do in off weeks in Columbia. Will Muschamp makes sure that his backup quarterbacks get a bunch of reps because it's a great opportunity for them to be able to try to progress. And, so with that being said, Darren, I don't think – look, Luke Doty didn't give up – Colin Hill didn't give up 52 points in Baton Rouge. And LSU turned around and got thumped by Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a South Carolina fan, you need to hope one thing here. That was just a really bad night in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
That's just what you need to hope for. Because South Carolina beat Auburn, and then Auburn beat the junk out of LSU, and LSU beat the everything out of South Carolina, and it was just all bad. So I think you just need to hope it was just one of those. It was like just a bad day. Go back to 2012. Will Muschamp is the coach at Florida. South Carolina goes down to Baton Rouge. Carolina's better than both of these teams that year. Goes down to Baton Rouge, gets beat as the 3rd-ranked team in the country. Turns around the next week, close game, 23-21. Turns around the next week, has to go on the road to the Swamp and take on Muschamp and the Gators. And Florida didn't have 200 yards of total offense, and they somehow beat South Carolina 44-11. It was just a really bad day.
Yep.
Everything just went wrong. And maybe that's just kind of what happened in Baton Rouge.
It's possible, right? Because, as you mentioned, Auburn beat the tar out of LSU. There is such a thing as having a really bad day. And there is such a thing as that bad day snowballing, and it reaches a point where you just can't turn it around. Mm-hmm. We had Wes Mitchell on yesterday, and we were trying to figure out, okay, so what moves can be made? And it basically comes down to, look, at the end of the day, like, is there this magic pill that you can just put in there and it just grows into this superstar and he changes everything? No. It's not there.
No.
You've got the players that you've got. You've got the guys available to you that are available to you right now. They got to go out there and they got to play better. They got to wear it on their sleeve. They got to have a little bit more pride. They got to go out there and they got to play hard. And that's what needs to happen first and foremost. It's got to start there. It's got to start with the guys on the field, even more so than the guys giving them the signals from the side.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, some of those guys just flat out need to play better. I mean, do I think that there have been some coaching issues? I do, certainly, and I think the large majority of that is on the defensive side of the football. We've discussed this to no end around here. I think that that South Carolina defensively should be light years ahead of where they have played this season in its entirety. I just think it's not been good.
Yep.
And a lot of that does start with the coaches, and that does need to be cleaned up, and maybe a lot of that was cleaned up this past week. Let me give you a little optimism.
Yeah.
South Carolina is 4-0 under Will Muschamp following an off week, and that includes last year's upset win on the road in Athens. 2 years ago, they took down Tennessee at home in a tight one, 27-24, I think was the final score. And prior to, Vanderbilt in 2017 and in 2016, it was a win over the UMass Minutemen. And you're going, yeah, who cares about that? Well, that was Jake Bentley's first career start, and so they had to roll a new guy out there, and it was tough sledding that day, believe it or not, but they did win the game. So they're 4-0. Jimbo Fisher just 3-7 on the road as the head coach of the Aggies, and that record might not sound right. He hadn't really been there that long. It's not like you play 7-8 road games a year. So in true road games, 3-7 is not very good. And you're going to be under the lights at Williams-Brice. Remember, the sun goes down a little earlier these days. And so you're going to have a couple of dark hours up there where 20,000 folks or so are going to be able to get into game form, and who knows what can happen.
Look, there's a reason this line is where it is. It's right around a touchdown. If you look at it on paper, if you look at the numbers, this thing shouldn't be a 7-point game. This shouldn't be a 7-point line. It should be bigger than that. On paper, this is two very different teams. But what you just said matters. The off week came, I think, at a good time. You can ask players, you can ask coaches, and they say you always want to go into the off week off a win. You want to go into the off week feeling good. And I understand that philosophy. For the Gamecocks, losing the way they did going into the off week, I think that was good for them. Because it gives the coaching staff and it gives the players a chance to kick their own asses a little bit and get back in gear and understand that, look, as we've been saying for the last couple of weeks, there isn't a game on the schedule right now that's not a winnable game. So you can either bury your head in the sand and feel bad for yourself because you laid an egg in Baton Rouge, or you turn it around and understand that the week before that you did go beat Auburn. You turn it around and understand that you were having some momentum for a couple of weeks, and this is a team that does have the ability to bounce back. And if you get the right mentality about you, I mean, sports psychology, right?
Yeah.
Get the right mentality about you. I think it was a good time for the off week, even though it came following a loss.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know when Michael Flint said it, I wasn't here this Friday, but the previous Friday before they went to Baton Rouge. Look, it's always better to go into an off week with a win. And I think a lot of that, the juice in that comment really revolves around the fan base. Because if you go into the off week with a loss, you've got 2 weeks basically of everybody talking about the last time you're on the field.
Yep.
Generally, you want to get back on the field as quickly as you can and try to recoup that L. And, so you got the fan base who has just been hammering this program for the last couple of weeks, wondering, what's to come, what's going to happen. And then you see Auburn beat LSU this weekend, and you wonder what's wrong with your team. And it's a distant memory all of a sudden that only a week prior to that loss, they beat Auburn.
Right.
And so, I'm with you. Look, I think the off week, first of all, was just at the right time, period, the end, as far as where the season is, how it lays itself out. You're right at the halfway point. And then you've got a huge game at home coming up against a top 10 opponent, and you have some very winnable games in this stretch here, with Ole Miss, which has been announced as a night kick down there in Oxford next weekend. You got Missouri, winnable game. You beat Georgia last year, and then you got to go to Kentucky, and their defense has been really good. But it's a winnable game. They're all winnable games. And so it might have been win or lose in Baton Rouge. I think it was actually the perfect time to kind of resituate yourselves and come up with the best way to move forward in these last 5 games and try to have a winning record on the other side of this thing.
And look, if you want to circle this back to what will happen at the quarterback position, then there's another reason why this off week came at a good time. Because if Doty is progressing the way that you've heard he is progressing, then you know, because this is what happens in off weeks, that the guys who aren't the number one are going to get more reps with the number ones. They're going to get more opportunities, which then speeds up the learning process and speeds up the growth for someone like Luke Doty. Then that is a benefit as well. Remember, last week, J.C. Sherbert passionately said, look, if you're going to make a move, the move isn't bench Colin Hill right now. It's not. And I don't think, I know both of us don't disagree with that. We agree. The move is not to put him on the bench right now. If you make a change, the change is probably Doty over Helinski, not as a knock on Helinski, but the guy's a little bit more mobile, and maybe it can be a spark. Because if the problem remains, the ball's not getting out fast enough, we're taking too many sacks, then you got to switch that part up first.
That's right. I mean, and I agree with that. And Luke doesn't know this offense near what Colin does. No. Obviously, neither does Ryan. You know, the question is what's going on with Ryan. If that's true, if maybe he has been passed on the depth chart by true freshman Luke Doty, the question is what's going on with Ryan. Is he just not able to hammer this thing down? You know, is he a little bit checked out? I don't know the answer to that. Here's what I do know about Ryan Helinski. He's a great kid. And his family moved all the way across the country to come play football for South Carolina. And they've been invested not only in the university and in the program, but they've been invested in the community with Helinski's Hope. I mean, this kid's been through a lot. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up in this too. You know, this kid was a 5-star quarterback who came to the Palmetto State from California, not Mississippi or Tennessee, California. And, everything he's been through, people have an emotional connection to him, and they should. He played and started 11 games last year as a freshman. And so when people, when you put all that into one big, pile of information here, you have a feel for this kid. You want to see him play. You want to see him succeed. And I do too. I think we all do. But I don't know how the fan base can, after watching the defense play this year, can blame any of the struggles on this team on A, Colin Hill, and B, I don't know how they can actually question Mike Bobo, who was specifically brought in to call plays and to develop the quarterback position, and this coaching staff. I don't know how we can question their decisions in the quarterback room. We don't see it.
No, but the one thing that I've seen consistently as the gripe there isn't necessarily a, hey, let's get better immediately at quarterback. It's more of a, okay, let's understand where we are as a team, and because this is where we are, let's see what we have in the future. And in the future, maybe it's one of the guys that's on the bench. My answer to that is you're halfway through the season, and there have been really good flashes already. And, yeah, there's been a dumpster fire down in Baton Rouge. But you're halfway through. Don't give up on the year just yet. No, because if you go through these last 5 games and you pick up 3, maybe 4 wins, it's a totally different thing. So don't just say, hey, let's play for the future now, when Will Muschamp isn't playing for the future right now. He's playing for his future in some ways. So he's playing for now.
Well, and again, when it comes to Colin, people, and I know this is a lengthy conversation, and we're about to step aside and move on, and we'll come back to this with Perry, but people don't understand what else actually happens out there. Now, I saw the same thing everybody saw in Baton Rouge. I saw taking the sacks. I saw not seeing open wide receivers running across the middle of the field and stuff. I saw that. We all saw that. I was as hard as on this program as anybody about it. But there's a lot that you don't hear and that you don't necessarily see unless you're calling plays. And this is coming from players who say that, former players, the Flints of the world, the Perry Orrs of the world. I mean, listen to Eric Kimry. And these guys, they know what they're talking about, and they all will preface their comments with one very simple line. Now, we don't know what was going on in the headsets. Exactly. We don't know. Because what we don't know is what's being shouted out there, what's being changed. We do know this just because people have kind of talked about it from time to time. Will Muschamp has said as much in a lot of his press conferences. Colin Hill's checked into a ton of very successful plays this year.
Right.
And a lot of them have been run plays. And if you look at Carolina's success in the red zone, that's the reason they've got 2 wins. If not, they'd have 1.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be 1-4. But they've got 2 because of a win over Auburn, and they were able to check into the right calls down there with off of turnovers and things like that, and put some points on the board to beat the Tigers. Because defensively that day, they obviously made a couple of nice plays, but overall it wasn't just a special day defensively. They gave up 450 yards.
Yeah.
So we don't necessarily know everything that's going on. You got South Carolina at 2-3, Missouri at 2-3, Tennessee at 2-3. Kentucky, everybody's darling to start the year. They're 2-4, guys. LSU is 2-3, and I know they beat South Carolina. I mean, Ole Miss 2-4. Mississippi State, a team after they beat LSU, thought to do a bunch. They're 1-4. It's a wacky league. Carolina's not in a great place, but they're not in the worst place.
No, God, no, not at all. Because Vanderbilt's in the worst place. Kentucky is in a worse place. There are questions along every team right now, and Alabama not as much so. And significantly less. I think that's fair. But every team's got questions. Every single one of them does. And nothing has changed because of the blowout in Baton Rouge from the comment of every game left is winnable. It's not a guaranteed loss. It's not a guaranteed win. But put the game plan together, put everything in the pot, and roll it out there, and let's see what happens. All 5 games left are the same.
Yeah, no question. No question. 843-321-8893. It's our phone number. It's also our text line. And you can send us some comments on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever social media you use as well. Just find at JB and Goldwater. We did have Perry Orth coming up at 1 o'clock this afternoon for about 20 minutes, and then we get Gene Sapikoff as well, so plenty to get to. Trevor Lawrence, of course, will not play this weekend against Notre Dame. Neither will James Skalski. So the leader of the offense and the leader of the defense out of the game for Clemson against fourth-ranked Notre Dame. And, of course, both these teams undefeated, a combined 13-0, a combined 11-0 in the ACC, with this being Notre Dame's 1 year in the league, Darren. And, you know, we all – and I know I wasn't here yesterday. You addressed all of this on the program and had Reggie on. It wasn't a good weekend for Clemson. They are still number 1. DJ Uwe Ungalale.
Uwe Ungalale.
DJ Uwe Ungalale was really, really good.
Yeah.
He was really, really good. There's no doubt about that. But it wasn't really good for Clemson. And the last 2 weeks, quite frankly, have not been really good for Clemson. Like, I don't think they can play like they played in either one of those games and win this weekend. And I've been predicting them to go undefeated all year. And we'll pick the game on Friday. I don't think you're going to see that DJ Uiagalelei this weekend. They're going to have to come up with some different – they're going to need Travis Etienne more than ever in South Bend Saturday night.
So the questions right now that need to be answered for Clemson. Number one, if they play the way they played in the second half, they're going to be fine. But it was the first half and the defensive almost looking lost. That was the puzzling part because it looked as though – and Reggie pointed this out also. You know, when you're playing that 3-4, you need a guy in the middle. You need someone there. The lack of Davis – was apparent, and it was apparent from the get-go. Then you're down 2 starting linebackers. And one of the plays that was the most glaring to me in that game, it was 3rd and long. I want to say it was the opening quarter. Could have been the second quarter. It's 3rd and long. Everything broke down. Play took forever. And Jerkovic, able to get out of the pocket, 2 Clemson linebackers collided with each other, and Jerkovic picks up the first down with his legs. That was one of the most glaring signs to me that the defense was not on the page they were supposed to be on. They come out in the second half, and they shut them out. It was a different defense. They brought more pressure. I think what we saw from Uiagalelei, they kept it easy for him. They made sure that they eased him into the game. It's a darn good thing that Etienne has become the reliable receiver that he has become, because without that, they don't win that game, and that's what you're going to need to see up at Notre Dame. That and – got to find a way to get some push on this offensive line. Yeah. The fact that they can't consistently turn the ball and hand it off to Etienne and get him, 8 yards a clip? I mean, that's what he was averaging for his career, basically, 8-something yards a clip when he was running the ball. That's not happening. So what happens when you go up against this rushing defense now? I mean, Clemson's numbers are good. Notre Dame's numbers jump off the page at you.
They do.
You could say it's their opponents, and that's a fair thing to say. But they're holding people to 10 points a game. They're not giving up anything. They're getting behind the line of scrimmage as much as anybody in the country. So this offensive line has its work cut out for.
Well, it was only just a couple weeks ago that after that 12-7 win over Louisville, Darren, that you and I questioned whether Notre Dame was really a top 3 or 4 team. I think they were ranked 3rd at that point in time, obviously 4th now with Ohio State, playing football again. Since then, blowout wins over Pittsburgh and Georgia Tech maybe have certainly changed some minds. Both of those wins have been on the road, a combined 76 points for the Irish offense, and they've only given up 16 points. And only one game this year where they've given up over 13. You mentioned a minute ago only allowing about 10 a game, and that was 26 against Florida State. Obviously, when you look at the opponents, wins over Duke, South Florida, Florida State, Louisville, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, nothing really hops off the screen at you. When you look at Clemson and what they've been able to accomplish, their resume, in my opinion, is better. Obviously, beating Miami the way that they beat Miami. I give them some credit for beating Virginia 41-23. Maybe Virginia's starting to turn it around a little bit. Clearly, that Boston College win was a tough one, but BC has won 4 games this year. And so, and then just the way they performed in some of those blowout wins like Georgia Tech and things like that. Look, I give Clemson the nod when it comes to, what does their resume actually look like. But Notre Dame's playing confident football, and they've got a chance. They got a chance here as a 1-year member of the league to knock off Clemson at home.
That's a good point too.
Which is crazy. Here's something. Let me throw this at you too. And I know that they practice Sunday. They're not practicing today because of election day.
Yeah,
and and I get it. I'm looking at kind of how all the politics has played itself out, where you can actually vote early and things like that. I kind of wonder why everybody went this way. Let's just take election day off. I don't. And Notre Dame's not practicing either, but I don't know that that's the best thing in the world for Clemson right now, because they're starting a true freshman at quarterback. If Lawrence was going to be the starter and he was going to be able to practice all week, I wouldn't be as concerned about it. But Uiagalelei, I know he'll be doing a bunch of research and a bunch of film and this, like that, and the other today. He needs to practice, Darren.
The fact is, he will have, whether they practice today or not, and they're not. I mean, it's a mandatory off day for NCAA right now. So he is getting all the reps with the ones.
Sure,
That's number one. It's a full week of it as opposed to whichever day it really started last week. The other thing that came out during Dabo's media session earlier today, Trevor Lawrence will be with the team at Notre Dame.
Right.
So he will be past his period of isolation. And the reason he won't be able to play is he won't be done with his cardiac testing. So he will be with the team. He will travel with the team. He'll be on the sidelines with the team. So you've got the freshman quarterback who threw for 350 basically and 2 touchdowns, ran for another. You've got him working with the ones all week. And you've got Trevor Lawrence, who's able to go right up to DJ every time they come off the field and say, "What'd you see, kid?
Right.
What'd you see? Why'd you make that read?" And, good job, bad job, and walk him through it. And that's not something that Tony Elliott has to worry about. It's not something that Dabo's got to worry about, because Trevor Lawrence will be there doing that job. Yeah. I think that is a massive, massive get for Clemson to have Lawrence on the sidelines at Notre Dame.
Oh, I do. I agree. I definitely think so too. I mean, you still have to. You're going to be in Notre Dame Stadium, one of the cathedrals of college football, starting a true freshman back there at QB. So I do think there will be some impact. I do think that they will do everything in their power to lean much more on Travis earlier in this ball game here. But Clemson is also Clemson, and they generally tend to rise to the occasion when it's time for a big-time matchup. But Notre Dame is probably also saying, hey, look, we owe these guys something. They embarrassed us in the last college football playoff game that we played against them. This could be a college football playoff eliminator for all we know coming up this weekend. Let's hit a quick timeout. Will Muschamp is set to address the media here in just a little bit. We're going to try to carry just a little bit of that live for you. And then we got much more on both of these ball games, plus notes on Coastal Carolina, Citadel. We got some NFL and some Major League Baseball stuff to get to. Perry Orth, Gene Sapkoff, all ahead right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But Here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for him. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth, and you're listening to my friends JB and Goldwater.
All right, 12:31. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends and yours, Stokes Volkswagen. Chilly out there today. Grab yourselves a drink down the road at Dog and Duck, or get something to eat, or get the wings. The wings warm you up, don't they?
Oh, man, get the wings. They're going to warm you up. The medium wings are good. Hot garlic or hot teriyaki. That's what you want if you go over there to Dog and Duck. Plus, family bingo night's back as well. Get your kids to win some stuff, and you don't have to buy it for them.
Hot garlic.
Yeah,
Sounds
dude,
good.
It's good. Really good.
In Delaware on Sunday night, I had local. Have you ever had rockfish? You like rockfish?
I'm not a big fish guy. Not a big seafood guy. Growing up in Maryland, I'm like shaming my upbringing, but I'm not.
Well, you know what crab imperial is, obviously. But the rockfish was stuffed with crab imperial. And mashed potatoes, and I had fried avocado with it.
Fried avocado.
It was really good.
Ah,
it's really, really good.
You can fry anything.
There's my food drop of the day here on JB and Goldwater. All right, so we're not going to air Will Muschamp's press conference. Obviously, everybody is wanting to hear what he has to say about the quarterback situation, and so we'll see how much he addresses that here in just a minute. Again, as I mentioned on Gamecock Talk earlier, if you're a season ticket holder, which you can be by downloading the JB and Goldwater app, I do not anticipate Colin Hill being removed as the starting quarterback of the South Carolina Gamecocks. We do know a couple of things, though. It does appear that Saturday will also be Military Appreciation Day in Columbia. So that is really good news. It looks like if you've ever seen the Military Appreciation event that they put on during halftime, it's really, really, really neat. I'm anxious to see how they do it this year because the band has not been on the field. But that will be coming up on Saturday evening at Williams-Brice. Will Muschamp now has confirmed that Colin Hill will start at quarterback on Saturday. Ryan Helinski and Luke Doty have received a ton of reps, but they continue to feel that Colin Hill will give them the best opportunity to win. And that just goes back to what you and I were talking about as we started the show here today. There's nobody who's set to unseat him based on knowledge of the offense. Now, he needs to perform. There's no doubt. But he knows it. And so the question comes down to, Darren, is it better to put somebody else in there, or is it better to sharpen the tool that you've got?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And right now, and I agree with Muschamp wholeheartedly. Not that he cares whether I agree or not.
Not at all.
But sharpen the tool that you've got, because at least you know that tool works. That tool understands what's going on out there. This is a huge game. I said before the LSU game, this was the biggest game of the Will Muschamp career, of Will Muschamp's tenure.
Mm-hmm.
And people kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? What? How? No, it's not. Well, why does the biggest game always have to be a game that could get you fired? Why can't it be a game that could actually extend your career or propel you to a better season or something like that? Why can't it be the Kickstarter game?
Correct.
And so that's kind of what I thought. This game is not the most important game of Will Muschamp's tenure at South Carolina, but this game is huge when it comes to the perception of the program. This is a winnable game. A&M, depending on what you look at, 8.5, 10-point favorites over the Gamecocks. Carolina's never beaten them, although they are 4-0 under Will Muschamp after a bye week, and, of course, they're coming off a bye week. But you would have, of your 4, if you win this game, of your 3 wins this year, you'd have 2 top 15 wins, Darren.
That's huge. I mean, that's
enormous.
It's a huge thing for Will Muschamp.
It's
a
huge
big thing for the Gamecocks.
Absolutely. And you think about the recruiting that goes on out there. He's set to sign some pretty good players in this class, and we know about the players in the next class. And if you think that negative recruiting doesn't go on, you're crazy. You know that it does. And if you just continue to lose games, it's easy to negatively recruit against your program because you're not winning.
Yes.
And so obviously this would be another great step, and it propels you to a bunch of games that you've already beaten. You beat Georgia last year. I'm not saying that it should make you feel much better about the game this year, but it gives you some hope. And then you got 3 other games in there that you look at it and you say, well, we should be better than all 3 of these guys. Like, we could really do something special here on the back half of the season here. It does appear that the feed is up here with Coach Muschamp now. We're going to try to check on this, Darren, and if you'll just kind of give me a head nod and maybe we can check in briefly with what Will's got to say. But he's obviously being asked about the quarterback position and a couple of other things pertinent to this weekend's matchup. So we want to let you hear it in his words, not necessarily ours. Do want to get to the Heisman race in a little bit as well as it pertains to Trevor Lawrence and maybe who's the leader. Is it not TL? Who could that possibly be? I'll tell you who it is here in just a few minutes, plus Perry Orth is ahead. But this is an enormous game, and you got 2 former Saban assistants going up against each other. They know each other very well. Will Muschamp seems to know every coach in this league these days. But here he is right now. He's on the podium in Columbia. Let's check in with what the head coach of the Gamecocks has to say.
Gene Sapico.
Hey, Will, you were talking about opponent tight ends earlier. What about your guy Mullins? And can you kind of talk about how he's progressed since fall camp?
He's done a great job, really moving positions, Gene, and really having never been attached to the core of the formation and all of the different things that go into that position. Because in that position, you're involved in blocking of the run game, you're involved in protections, you're also involved in the passing game. So there's a lot of different things involved that he has never experienced before. He's done a great job. He's a guy, speed-wise, it creates a lot of issues for a defense. And you saw the other night against down in Baton Rouge, on the wheel route on the sideline. The vertical route on the nice, designed by Mike on the route on the 7 cut there for another explosive play. But he's a guy that can, certainly stretch the field vertically.
What's his makeup and personality like, would you say?
Kevion?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a quiet guy. He's very, very country. He's from Memphis, Tennessee, and you can tell it when he talks.
Mike Yuba?
Well, coming off the type of game that you had against LSU with the inability to stop the run as consistent as I'm sure you would have liked, knowing that you're going up against a team that likes to run the football a lot, how much does that excite this team knowing, that that's how they want to most likely attack you?
Well, we've challenged our guys to understand what we're getting into, that we've got to play the run much better. I think we're certainly more than capable of doing that. We looked at some things schematically that we can do to help our guys, and we got to play better. We got to get off blocks and play much better as far as disengage and snag and getting off guys. And so we've addressed some of those things, and I think we'll play much better.
Pete Acabelli.
Will, did you like what you saw out of your team during the bye week practices? And what areas specifically do you think they took strides and improved?
Well, I think there was a huge emphasis in the obviously defensively in the run game, and I think that we made some strides there. We did a lot of good work. I think offensively we got to protect the quarterback better and better timing in the passing game, and I thought we made some strides there. And we'll find out on Saturday night how many strides we made. That's the bottom line. It comes down to game day and how you play on game day. But we got good work and looking ahead at some opponents, and obviously a good start on Texas A&M.
Ben Briner.
Will, I wanted to ask, how much growth and development have you seen from Jordan Birch across the first 5 games, and Where does he kind of fit into your kind of game plan, your expectations at this point?
Well, I think he's from game 1 to game 5. It's night and day from where he is, and that was, that was expected for us. We knew that there would be the light would go off, and I think the light has gone off. I think he plays extremely hard. I think he understands more the expectation of down in, down out, and what you've got to do in this league and how you play. But he is a very physical, violent guy that can make plays on the ball, that can rush the passer, that can get off block and disengage, and he can do a lot of positive things for us. I'm excited about his future, excited about seeing him Saturday night.
Also, I know Kevion had something with the ankle at the end of the LSU game. You guys expect him to go this week?
Yes.
Colin Taylor?
Yeah, well, 2 questions. I know you said you guys practice Monday night and get back to regular game week tomorrow. Is that still early morning practices for y'all, Wednesday and Thursday?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I guess you mentioned Parker White doing kickoff duties now. Are there any more personnel changes or scheme changes you expect going into this A&M game?
No, that's about it. I mean, there's be some different guys that, on special teams, getting Cam back and some other guys that we'll look at on teams as far as coverage units and return units.
Hale?
Hey, sort of along the lines of younger guys or guys who haven't played a bunch the first half of the season, any guys that took advantage of some increased opportunities during practice, guys who got maybe some more reps that really
Well, again, I think that we ended all 3 days with a emphasis on younger guys participating. Rico Powers is a young receiver that continues to come on for us. Rashad Amos, a young running back, excited about the offensive lineman. Most of those guys, Vershawn has obviously played and started a game. Tyshawn Wanamaker's another player that we feel like continues to come on. Good movement inside. Jaheim Bell's made some strides at the tight end position. Got to have him continue to come on for us. I think Mo Kaba is another guy that continues to improve at the linebacker position. We need him to keep coming for us. Alex Huntley, expect for him to play Saturday night. A guy that continues to make some strides, is now healthy off the ankle, and thought he did some really good things in the open date, and obviously again on Sunday night and last night in both of those practice and preparation. And there's some other guys that have made some strides. Those are the ones off the top of my head that I think have made continued to improvement that catch your eye, that obviously can help us as we continue to move forward.
Phil Kornbluth.
Hey, Will. In today's world of college football, how strange is it to be facing a starting quarterback for a 4th time? Is there some advantage to you as a defensive planner because you've seen Kellen Mond so much and you kind of maybe know his tendencies and know some things about what to expect?
No, because he's a good player. I don't know that it helps you at all. But no, he is a really good football player, an experienced guy. It's very unusual to see a guy in his 4th year as a starter, but to see where he's come as a freshman and how he's continued to progress every year, I think that, I think probably one of his most talented attributes is his toughness. This guy will stand in there. I mean, I think about last year, we rushed them pretty well. We got after him pretty good, and he got up every single time. T.J. Brunson did have a targeting in that game, and it was a clean hit on the quarterback, but, Kellen got right up and kept on playing. And I think his element of toughness, which I know impresses Jimbo from that standpoint in our conversation. So I have a lot of respect for the young man.
Back to David.
Well, looking way ahead here, but the bowl season this year, there's no requirement for wins or everything. Have you guys gotten any, direction from the NCAA, the conference office, the bowl commission about how that process will go? I mean, will you guys have to submit a bid? Will you be invited? Have you guys heard anything about that?
All bowl situations are controlled by our conference. So the conference, it'll all go through the conference, but we're getting ready for Texas A&M right now.
I guess patching on to that, I mean, do you have any doubt that you guys would be able to go in that situation, considering finances are what they are?
Chandler Mack.
Hey, Coach. Real quick, Texas A&M, they have the 6th
worst rushing defense in the SEC. Can you talk to us what's been the emphasis on getting Kevin Harris and other running backs the ball just to maybe exploit that?
Well, no different, Chandler, than every week for us. We've got to have the ability to run the football. I think the thing that jumps out at you is when I started talking about their defense is their edge rushers, I think, are very effective. And if you get into a one-dimensional.
All right, there you go. Checking in with Will Muschamp up there in Columbia. Perry Orth ahead at 1 o'clock here on the JB and Goldwater Show. I did get some news there. Will Muschamp confirming that former Hammond star and teammate of Jordan Birch, Alex Huntley, will play Saturday against Texas A&M. As he said just moments before that one of the emphasis in the off week was stopping the run on defense, and that'll be big to get him back. I know that he's a true freshman, Darren. Do we expect him to have 30, 40 snaps? Nope. But certainly that means he's a capable body to get in there and maybe spell some of those guys from time to time and to be able to help out on that side of the football. You know, the Spiller kid runs it well for A&M. He's really good. Isaiah Spiller. Obviously, Kellen Mond runs it well too, and he's the quarterback, dual-threat guy. So getting some help there. That's good. He mentioned Mo Kaba, the young linebacker, freshman this year, an athletic kid who there's a lot of people very excited about his future. I think linebacker has been a very weak spot outside of Ernest Jones for the Gamecocks. Roe Lewis hasn't played at all yet this year because of being banged up. So we'll see if he's able to get in there, but it looks like he is getting ready to go. Also confirmed Parker White will be kicking off now moving forward for South Carolina. That's interesting to me because Parker had a tough week at LSU. Probably the worst game of his career as a kicker, as a matter of fact. And now, he's got another duty, and that's kicking off. So we'll see how that goes. But I will say this. If you continue to have issues covering the kickoff, and that's probably why they put him in there, it's going to be just kick it through the end zone. I mean, that they moved the damn thing up to the 35. Just kick it through the end zone.
Yeah,
I mean, if you don't feel that comfortable with covering kickoffs, kick it through the end zone.
And there's more to covering kicks than I think most people actually realize, because there's a plan going into that kick, whether you're kicking it high or low or left or right or short or long, all of it. And if your kicker misses on the execution, then your entire coverage team is hung out to dry.
Yeah.
And just one of those spots, if he misses, your whole team's hung out to dry.
Right.
So maybe Parker White is more adept at consistency, and maybe it's simply just bang it through the back and be done.
Because here's the thing, those really deep high kicks that traditionally you would like the returner to try to field right around the 2-3 yard line to where they're going to have to bring it out, and that's going to give you plenty of time to get down. Obviously the kick is so high in the air, it gives your coverage team time to get down the field. Teams don't do that anymore because you can fair catch it, or you just wave it off and walk out of the way and just let it hit the ground, and it doesn't matter as long as you wave the fair catch, it's over. So if you feel that uncomfortable about your kickoffs, just bring a guy in there and just boot it through the end zone every time. Don't worry about it. Send your defense back out and go ahead and set up on the 25-yard line. So maybe that's going to be the new process as far as kicking off goes. But he also mentioned Luke Doty, and again he did confirm Colin's going to start, but he did talk about some of the wrinkles they've been working on with the true freshman quarterback. That's not surprising to me. Now. I think, Darren, sometimes when people hear things like this, they think that there's going to be some magical new offense on the field. And this isn't just a South Carolina conversation. This is to any fan of any team. And they hear a quarterback wrinkle, and you put those in the same sentence, you're like, we got magic in the offense. Not really. What that means is that there is a different style player, and Luke Doty and Colin Hill are certainly different style of players because Luke Doty can flat out move and Colin can't. And what that means is if the situation times itself right and there's an opportunity that presents itself to be able to put one of those wrinkles into the game, they have the option to do that.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do it. It doesn't mean that's the best thing for that moment in the ball game. You might be down by 2 touchdowns, and it's just not safe to put a true freshman out there who really hasn't played quarterback this year. But if the situation is right and they feel comfortable, then maybe they can plug him in there and something special can happen out of that. So I certainly thought that that was some valuable information. And then obviously Kevion Mullins being cleared to go is huge because he's a guy that they were, they discussed. We talked about him heading into the LSU game as a a guy who's kind of been shifted to the receiver to try to spell Shi Smith a little bit. He had 2 catches for over 100 yards against the Tigers. So clear, and he can get up and go. He runs about 22 miles an hour on the catapult. I mean, that's pretty good. That's, Kevin Harris gets up there, so they're trying to find some new weapons. So there was some quality information from Will Muschamp there. He is still speaking with the media, and anything new that comes out of this, Darren, we're certainly going to pass along to you. But I'll summarize with this. This is a pretty healthy football team at week 6 of a 10-game SEC schedule. Now, knock on wood. But as opposed to years past, last year you had a bunch of offensive injuries. The year before you had a bunch of defensive injuries, and that's where a lot of people were willing to give passes to the staff because they're like, dude, there's so many people out. This is ridiculous. That's not the case.
Right.
Injuries aren't a problem right now. There are guys who are hurt that have been an issue, and they're not deep enough to have a bunch of injuries. But, boy, are they in much better shape than they've been the last 2 years.
And it's got to be pleasing to know that Huntley's going to get out there, and who knows how well he'll play or how much he'll play. But, God, just some more size and physicality on that defensive line, that's necessary. So it's another body that you can put out there and rotate in. And if he plays great, awesome. If not, rotate him in, rotate him out. Just spell some guys because you need that body.
You and I talked to Eric Kimry right before the season started about Alex Huntley and about Jordan Burch. And I mentioned Jordan. I said, I from what I understand, he's a guy who's going to be able to step right in and help a lot. And Eric brought up Alex. He said, so can Boogie. He's a guy that just you haven't seen much of him. Eric had kind of just spilled the beans that Boogie Huntley and Jordan Burch both had been in some quarantine protocols before the season because of COVID.
Yep.
So maybe didn't get as much time as he needed. He's been a little bit banged up, but he said, look, this kid will be able to play as a freshman at some point this year, and he's going to help him. And this is from his former high school coach, and this isn't just some former high school coach. This is Eric Kimry. His word means a little bit more when he says things like that. So we'll see. We'll see if there's an impact from Boogie Huntley coming up this week. Also, Will Muschamp confirming Izzy McQuamu will be starting at corner this week, but also able to switch back and forth between safety and playing opposite, of course, J.C. Horn. So we'll see what happens with Izzy McQuamu. But good to have him in there and healthy as well. Cam Smith expected to be back too. So Gamecocks pretty healthy. All right, Trevor Lawrence not playing against Notre Dame. How much does that impact the Heisman race, Darren? I think it impacts the Heisman race a lot, a ton. Not necessarily the fact that he didn't play against Boston College. You can get past that. Okay, he's out because of COVID protocol against BC. Not so much Notre Dame because there just aren't enough huge opportunities on the schedule to be able to go showcase yourself. Would you agree with that?
I do, and that's the biggest point of emphasis right there. The fact that, when we were talking with multiple people leading up to the year, it was, all right, if you're going to win the Heisman, you need some marquee games. And the fact that Notre Dame will be on the schedule this year, the fact that you've already gotten through Miami, then you're going to have the ACC championship game as well. These are the marquee games that put you on the stage to win that Heisman.
Right.
If you're not playing in the biggest game of the year, that significantly hurts your stock. It really significantly hurts your stock. You combine that with what Mac Jones is doing, you combine that with what Justin Fields is doing, it makes perfect sense that right now the odds have shifted.
The game's scheduled to kick off at 7:30 on Saturday night in prime time. So obviously, and this isn't like sitting a shot at Trevor Lawrence. There's nothing to do about it. I'm not saying this as it pertains to him as a human or as a player. I'm just talking about the fact that he's not able to go on what will be the biggest stage he's been on this year, even more so than the Miami game. It's not. First of all, Notre Dame's 4th in the country. You had 8th-ranked Miami at home. You've got 4th-ranked Notre Dame on the road on their network at 7:30 at night. That is the biggest stage he's going to stand on in the regular season.
Absolutely.
The eyeballs will be there, and he won't be, and that's where it hurts him. And you mentioned Mac Jones. I mean, here's a kid who's 3rd at the FBS level with 2,196 yards through the air with the Tide, 2nd-ranked team in the country, Alabama. Mac Jones. I think he's the leader, and according to DraftKings, he is the leader right now to win the Heisman Trophy. That can all change. But you look at what he's done. If you ever go look at Mac Jones's game log and you go, wow, yeah, he has thrown for a lot of yards, and you look at some of these numbers that pop out, 78.5% completion or 78.5 completion percentage, 16 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Now Lawrence has thrown 17 touchdowns and only 2 picks. Okay, I get it. He's 70% completion percentage. Oh, that's great. But it's the Georgia and the A&M games right now that stand out for Mac Jones. 20 of 27 for 435, 4 touchdowns and a pick against A&M. 24 of 32 for 417, 4 touchdowns and a pick against Georgia. 75% completion percentage between those two teams. And the Tide have scored 93 points in those two ball games.
Yeah.
93 points. And he's thrown, Darren, for almost 900 yards in those two games. You're on the map, dude.
Yeah. So you were out Thursday. We were talking to Corey McCartney. And Corey, who is a Heisman voter, we spent a good bit of time on Mac Jones because in his eyes, this was last week now. This was before the news of Trevor Lawrence came out. And in his eyes, he was saying right now, it's the 3 quarterbacks, not even really thinking ETN. And he had some nuggets on Mac Jones that are crazy. He said there are people that are comparing him to Joe Burrow right now, but that's not really where the comparison lies. It's almost a bigger comparison than that because you take the whole sample size, and I know for Heisman Trophy, it's the best player this year, fine. But you know that's not exactly how this whole thing works. You take the whole sample size, and Mac Jones has hung around. He's one of the few that can become a Heisman candidate after being at a school for 3 years. He waited his turn. He did not transfer. The numbers were startling. I should go back and check on some of the things that Corey said. But what separates Mac Jones is pretty impressive, and his willingness to sit behind other Heisman candidates just to get his shot, and now shining while getting this opportunity. There's a lot to Mac Jones right now.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a ton to, what he's been able to do thus far through the season. He still obviously has some huge games ahead. And look, I do think that there's some bias when it comes to this to the Southeastern Conference. I do. Because I think at the end of the year, if he's thrown for 2,100 yards through 6 games, or 2,200 yards, 4 yards shy of 2,200 through 6 games, you got 4 games left in the regular season to throw for another. Can he throw for 3,500 yards in 10 games? He can.
He can.
The reality of it is he absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking, and I know that SEC defenses this year have not really been good, except for 2 of them,
mm-hmm.
Georgia and Kentucky, and he lit Georgia's up. But it's still that, he did it against the SEC. Who would have thought that Tua Tagovailoa goes down with an injury, leaves his career at Alabama. Mac Jones steps in and maybe wins a Heisman Trophy after Tua?
Right. Yeah, hard to believe. Right. But here he is. And the fact that he will be on that stage, we've already seen him play against Georgia. We're going to see Justin Fields playing more big games. He just obliterated Penn State. And he tore through, who was it the week before? Nebraska, when he was 20 of 21 and should have been 21 of 21. Mm-hmm. And he will have the Michigan game coming up. You're going to have more opportunities for Justin Fields on a big stage than you will Trevor Lawrence on a big stage.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
And Mac Jones, and I'll leave it at this, and we got to hit a timeout. The national anthem, Perry Orth, coming up next. The next game that Mac Jones plays
mm-hmm.
is at LSU. Now, I know LSU's defense hasn't been good. He's going to have every opportunity to light them up, and he probably will. But here's what's key about this. It's 6 o'clock on CBS after the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
The eyeballs will be there
again
for Mac Jones. Alabama, LSU at night after the Masters on CBS.
And the Masters, not only are we having a Masters in November, but the final round tee times. And Saturday, I believe, is the same. I think it's the same story. Things have been shifted earlier so that football can be played afterwards,
right.
So that the eyeballs can be on it. And even though LSU isn't boasting the defense that they typically have, it's still LSU.
It's still LSU.
It's still linear TV. This is not cable. This is CBS. This is the primetime crew for
right.
CBS. There are going to be eyeballs there, and you're going to see these. I mean, just think about it. He's probably going to put up 350 against LSU.
At least.
So the eyeballs are there.
At least,
and then they'll be talking about it on the broadcast, about what he's done and what he's accomplished and what's still to be had. It makes a difference.
Oh, it makes
big,
a huge
big difference.
And then after that, Kentucky, one of the best defenses in the country, the Iron Bowl, and then upstart Arkansas to end this season. So 4 huge opportunities for Mac Jones to maybe cement himself as the 2020 Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see. We know this. We'll see Perry Orth on the other side of this timeout. The former Gamecocks quarterback joins us right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. So hang tight. We'll be right back. The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for him. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 103, final hour on this Tuesday afternoon. It's Election Day.
Yay!
The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Download the all-new JB and Goldwater app. That's where you can watch and listen to our program. Purchase the season ticket as well. Get you in the Bourbon Club. It also gets you into Gamecock Talk, the all-new miniseries about South Carolina athletics. New episode released this morning, actually. Darren Goldwater to the right of your screen. I am Jamie. Across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, at Sports Radio JB, at Darren Goldwater individually, at Perry Orth 10 on Twitter. He joins us now, the former quarterback at South Carolina, for about 15 minutes here on a Tuesday afternoon. Coming off the bye week, Perry, did you get your vote in today? And B, are you fired up and ready to go for a top 10 matchup at Williams-Brice this weekend?
I did get my vote in. I went about an hour ago, and there were not a ton of lines, and was in and out of there within 10 minutes, so that was good. And had my candidate predetermined of who I was voting for, so it made it quick and easy. I didn't have to sit around and look at it, so made it quick.
Good for you. Good for you. Perry, of course, also at QB1athletics.com for quarterback training. And if you need insurance, imgsc.com as well. Insurance Management Group, South Carolina, personal, business, whatever it is, he'll take care of you. He always takes care of us on Tuesdays around here, Perry. So we listened to Will this morning, or just a few moments ago, actually, in his press conference today. A couple quick nuggets here I want to make you aware of, because I know you've kind of been on the run. Looks like Alex Huntley will get some reps this week at defensive tackle. They've been trying to shore up that run defense. He's a guy Eric Kimry's talked a lot about and said this guy will definitely help South Carolina. Maybe that starts against the Aggies Saturday night. Mo Kaba could get in there, a freshman at linebacker, where they need some help certainly. Kevion Mullins, he's ready to go and he'll play. Looks like Luke Doty has been working on some wrinkles with the offense, a different skill set clearly at quarterback with him. So some positives coming out of Will Muschamp's mouth today as they prepare for the Aggies. So let me ask you this. I know you said last week it's always good to get into an off week coming off of a win, but clearly they didn't do that. But was it good timing for the off week, though, Perry? You know, you're right at the halfway point. You got a second half of the season you can really maybe do some damage with, some teams that are some games, very winnable games starting this weekend. Was it just the right time to maybe hit the reset, refresh button and try to start a whole new 2020 season with game one against Texas A&M?
Yeah, I mean, you got to. I think that 2 and 3 is probably right about where they most of the fans would have said. You know, the coaching staff, obviously they anticipate to win all the games, but yeah, I mean, I would have traded the Auburn win preseason prediction for, the Tennessee. I thought we'd win that game and then lose to Auburn. So we're right in line with what I thought. But you have an opportunity to play. Texas A&M doesn't look overly impressive. Georgia is kind of slowed down. They're not as hot as I thought they once were. You go out and have a heck of a back half of the season and really get some hot momentum going into the off season. So I feel good. I feel good about where we're at. I think that getting Luke Doty some snaps will be important. And then ultimately, in my opinion, I think defense has just got to simply play better. I don't think they've played all that well. And if we can improve there, we got a chance.
Yeah, we're going to circle back to the defense in a second. Why will it be important for Luke Doty to get some snaps, in your opinion?
Well, I know that he, people and I know the coaching staff has talked about him being, the future of the program and the future quarterback. So you want to get him reps, but I think there's a way of doing that without just throwing him out there to make him do a complete, full start. I think that you can do what Clemson did with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson and, give him mid second quarter or early second quarter series where he goes out there and, if he goes out there and just not ready, then you take him out. And, sometimes you can get into issues with that because, you can cut off the momentum of the game, or sometimes, sometimes not. It really just depends. It's a flow. It's a feel of how you're at, offensively, how the game's going. That always seems to be a really good time to do that, maybe end of the first quarter. You just got to start getting him some reps, especially because this year doesn't really matter as far as eligibility. So you may as well play him, but play him in more of a protected package versus just, all right, this is your game, this is your team, go out and make it happen. Doesn't work overly too well when you do that.
Yeah, I agree.
For freshman quarterbacks, at least.
No, you're right. You're 100% right about that. There's a difference in finding a situation where he can get into the offense, and then there's what some people obviously think should happen when your defense goes up 52 points. You make a change at quarterback naturally. Just put a new guy in there and let him go do it. So when Will Muschamp, I kind of tried to explain this earlier in my terms, but I think your voice might hold a little bit more value. When Will Muschamp says something, or any coach for that matter, says something like, look, we're getting quarterback whomever, and in this case it's Luke Doty. We're getting him some reps, maybe plug in some additional wrinkles with him. Kind of explain what that means. I know you talked about like kind of the timeline and where that would unfold and stuff like that, but what that means to an offense.
Well, yeah, I mean, timing as far as the passing game, if you're not in rhythm and the timing's off, you're not going to be accurate because, how many times have you guys watched football games where they zoomed in on the back of the quarterback and you see the ball thrown and no one's in the area. Next thing you know, right before the ball's about to kind of start angling down like it's hitting the ground, somebody runs right through it and catches the ball, right? So there's a lot of times you're throwing to spots after repetition and repetition of certain plays or route concepts that you get used to mentally noting where the ball is supposed to hit on the side of the field. And it's the receiver's job to get there and the quarterback's job to put it there, especially against different coverages. So the passing game is everything. And then rhythm, you have to be in rhythm. And that's probably why Colin Hill won the job, is he probably went out there during camp, had a great understanding of the offense, kept the offense in rhythm when he was there. So it made it an easy decision for the coaching staff. So that's something that you can put in jeopardy by playing a younger guy. But if he's there and he's ready to play and ready to get experience, then you got to do it. I mean, this was the time they put Jake in, his freshman year, and he had a great second half of the season. So I think now would be the time to start getting Luke some reps and seeing what he can do, but obviously in a much controlled and packaged type situation versus, okay, well, we're down by a touchdown. Let's throw him out there and see if he can bring us back in the game. That's not the point. The point is to get him out there, get him reps, get him hit, get him tackled, get him reading, just get him in a feel of the game.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking for there. That you kind of summarized with at the end of that thing, at the end of your comments, Perry, is, it's not about putting pressure on this young man who does have a different skill set from Colin Hill and Ryan Helinski for that matter, because his legs make him a lot quicker than both those guys. But I want to ask you kind of a little bit about Ryan too. I mean, look, from the fans' perspective, this kid started 11 games last year, had a couple really good games. We all know his story. It's a tremendous story. We know he's a great kid. But if Colin Hill comes out of the game at any point on Saturday night and Luke Doty comes in and it's not Ryan Helinski, who has only played a couple of snaps this year at Vanderbilt, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I think that it just tells you where the coaches are at. I think that it's not that they don't like Ryan. I think that Colin gives them the best chance right now, and then there's so much that you can do with Luke. Whereas, Ryan may not have the same understanding of the offense that Colin does, and then Luke can do more for you than Ryan, because Ryan and Colin are more similar than Ryan and Luke. Luke's going to be able to go out there and really make plays with his legs, and that's just not something in Ryan's slate of talent. So I think that moving forward, they just feel best that having a mobile quarterback long term is better than the other option. So we'll see how it plays out. You never know. I mean, they got to make their decision based off of the play and practice between all three of the quarterbacks. And if, in my opinion, if Ryan goes out there and is having really good practices and Colin goes out and struggles, I think you make it an open competition again and see what happens. Same thing with Luke. At this point, we're not in a stage of our season where you say anybody is dead set on any position. I mean, you gotta win games however you can. I'm not saying you need to be benching kids. We went over that last week, but I am saying that the best players should play. And if Colin's struggling in practice and goes out and has another bad game, then you consider making a switch. But if he's having great practices and he just had a bad game versus LSU, you can't just be like, oh, we'll bench him, because like I said last week, the defense has got to step up too. And I can speak more from the offensive standpoint, just one, because I played, and to be honest, I'm getting to the point now where I don't really know any of the guys anymore, so I actually don't really know all of their names. I just kind of know by the numbers.
Perry Horth on Twitter at PerryHorth10. All right, Will said that they spent an extensive amount of time in the off week focusing on run defense. Probably a good thing to focus on heading into this ball game. Isaiah Spiller, through 5 games for the Aggies, has 512 yards. He averages 6 yards a carry. So, it's over 100 yards a game. You got Kellen Mond, who can run it if he needs to run it, certainly, but they average 175 yards a game overall as a team. And the last couple of ball games for the South Carolina defense have not been too kind on the ground. A combined 485 yards given up by the Gamecock rush defense. So, with all that being said, specifically what we've seen the last couple of weeks, what needs to change in this game to slow down that Aggies rushing attack?
Yeah, I think that more run blitzes, because obviously our defensive line's not holding their own. So doing something different, slanting, I know that caused issues. Stunts can really get you out of position, especially when a team runs inside zone well. But yeah, they got to do more things. Linebackers filling the holes at the line of scrimmage, and then ultimately tackling. You got it. Once you get your hands on them, you got to hold them up, let your other buddies come and bring them to the ground, if you can't do it yourself. So all in all, I think that getting to the point of attack at the line of scrimmage versus 2 yards down the field is something that's got to change too, because we hadn't had the defensive line play that we need.
I want to ask you about Izzy. Izzy, it looks like he's going to start at corner again this week. Will said that today. Perry, based on my here's my opinion, which means nothing, but when I've seen Izzy, I feel like, and I know he's had some big games at corner, I feel like he's much better off at safety, and then maybe starting Johnny Dixon over there. What do you think's the basis of continuing to start Izzy at corner? And then I know they're going to move him around and things like that, but are you seeing what I'm seeing, or am I just incorrect in my analysis there?
Yeah, no, he's definitely a safety. I think he can do some good things at corner, but he just doesn't have the hip wiggle to be an elite corner. I think he had an amazing game versus Georgia. This is not me knocking his ability. He looks like a safety. He doesn't look like a corner. He's obviously super gifted enough to play corner at this level, but I think he'll play safety at the next level, and I think that our coaches would agree with that statement as well.
Yeah.
And if they've got guys to play behind him and play corner so he can play safety, then you got to do it. You got to do at this point whatever it is that you can do to limit the amount of points the other team is getting. And I know that kind of goes without saying, but you go out and you get run all over and passed all over. You got to reevaluate, maybe not reevaluate your personnel, but reevaluate your scheme, and then maybe that in turn makes you reevaluate your personnel and your position group. So, Izzy's a great athlete, and he can play multiple positions, but he definitely is better at safety.
All right, we'll let you run after this one here. Last year was not kind to the Gamecocks. They lost 30-6 November the 16th down in College Station. If anybody remembers, the end of the season for Carolina offensively was not even putrid. If there's a word to use below that, that's what it was. It was horrible, horrible, horrible.
There you go. And you went below.
Yeah, App State, A&M, Clemson, it was just all bad. But there have been some really close games in this series. Carolina's not won a game. They've played every year since 2014. Obviously, Perry, you started at quarterback. I think it was actually on Halloween down there in 2015, if I remember correctly, in that game. You played against them in 2016. This is a opponent that the Gamecocks certainly respect, but they have had a couple of close games, just haven't been able to pull it off. What gives you reason to believe that they could pull it off this year? We've seen A&M, they're 4-1. They're not world beaters. Their one loss though is only to Alabama. It's a night game at Williams-Brice under the lights. Coming off of an off week, Will Muschamp is 4-0 as the head coach of South Carolina's football program. So what gives you some belief that streak could end on Saturday?
Yeah, we played really well off of an off week, and Texas A&M offensively has struggled against Coach Muschamp's defenses. They really have. You look at last year's game, they really did score on the points until very, very late. We were in that ball game till the end. You look at that game, you look at the year before and the year before and the year before. Each game has gone down to the wire, and all of the years Coach Muschamp has coached against them, our defense has played them in Jimbo Fisher's offense and that pro-style type offense very well. So we've got some good things that we can do to help. You know, we typically do stop their run really well and force Kellen Mond to throw the ball, which he can do. But we really do play them well. And if there's ever a year where I think that we could get them, especially having a bye week going into that game, I think it'd be this one.
It'd be 2 of 3 wins for South Carolina through 6 games against top 15 opponents. This one, of course, will be a top 10 win over the Aggies. It would be remarkable for Will Muschamp. All the flack he's taken this year, if they can find a way to win this one, to be sitting at 3-3 with 2 top 15 victories, that would be something to say here in 2020 for the South Carolina football program. We'll leave it there. You could find Perry on Twitter at PerryOrth10. If you're like Uncle Rico and you want to get back in the swing of things, head to QB1athletics.com, or you could just go to QB1 Athletics because maybe you have your son or your nephew or your neighbor who's training to be a quarterback. They'll do it. And if you need insurance, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whatever it is, imgsc.com. Perry, he was a really good quarterback. He's actually really good in this whole insurance thing. But I'll tell you, above all that, he's a better person. And I would do business with Perry Orth, no doubt. Perry, thank you, man. Pull him through on Saturday night. We look forward to speaking with you again next Tuesday, okay?
Sounds good, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Jamie.
Yes, sir. There you go, the former quarterback of the South Carolina Gamecocks, Perry Orth. Some pretty blunt comments there, actually. Very to the point about Izzy. I think, and he said, I think the coaches would agree. He's right. I think the coaches would agree. I've seen enough this year to know that they have some other options at corner. So I'm anxious. They might be starting him there, but let's just see how the flow of the game goes. Maybe some of that changes. But Perry, this is the second week in a row, he said, look, defense just needs to be better.
Well, yeah, and J.C. Sherbert said it last week also, that we've seen enough. And in his words, he said, look, we've all seen it. I'm going to say it. Izzy shouldn't be starting at corner. Dixon should be starting at corner. And the fact that what Perry pointed out, he's a safety at the next level. He looks like a safety. His best spot's at safety. Put him at safety. Mm-hmm. But the end of the day, yeah, the defense just needs to play better. But he gave some reason for optimism, some real good reason for optimism. And another reason why this line isn't as big as if you look at this game on paper, if you haven't seen a whole lot of football and you just look at these numbers, you would think to yourself, this is a 2-touchdown at minimum type of game for Texas A&M. But Vegas doesn't see it that way.
Nope.
Will Muschamp's defenses have played Jimbo Fisher's offense very well. That should give you some confidence. The fact that it's Muschamp coming off a bye, and he's undefeated in his Carolina career coming off a bye, that should give you some confidence. The fact that this bye week may have come at a good time, even though it was coming off of a loss, that should give you a little bit of confidence. Now, all the confidence in the world shouldn't make you feel like, all right, we're definitely going to beat Texas A&M this weekend, but it's more of the mentality of, look, don't go down that rabbit hole just yet. Go in there with some belief, and let's see how this team looks different than they have, 2 weeks ago.
A 10-point spread right now for A&M. I actually think that'll come down before the game kicks off, maybe settling somewhere right around 9.
It's up. It's up.
It's up right now, yeah.
Yesterday,
it started at 8.5, didn't it?
Yeah, and yesterday I think I had it down at 7 or 7.5 maybe. Maybe it moved to there.
It's jumped.
Oh, yeah.
It's jumped. I think it'll settle back somewhere probably around 9.
And look, I can tell you the reason why the number's going up. It's because people are putting money on A&M right there, so that number is increasing. Because if you just look at the numbers, it's scary. The fact that Spiller's getting 6 yards a carry, the fact that Mond is operating this offense as well as he has all year long after just a bit of a slow start. Something else that jumped out to me was the fact that they've got 3 or 4 different guys in the range of 20 receptions, including one of the better tight ends in the country.
Absolutely.
So it's not an easy offense to defend.
No, it's not. It's not, certainly. And that means South Carolina's offense will probably need to stay on the field, and they're going to need to get pressure on Kellen Mond, obviously. We'll talk much more about this game throughout the week, and we'll talk a little bit about this game with Gene Sapkoff coming up in just a few moments. It is Election Day, so how about you and I take 3 votes on 3 in-state football programs? How about that? You want to do that?
Yeah, let's vote.
So generally, when you vote, you don't tell people what your vote. Like, you're not one of those people, right?
that doesn't work for this type of segment.
No.
I'm going to tell you how I vote when you give me your question.
Yeah, okay. Will anybody, based on everything we've talked about today, will anybody this year besides Colin Hill start a game for South Carolina?
Yes.
You think so?
I do think so, and I think that name will be Luke Doty. Now,
Not this week. Will Muschamp's already announced Colin Hill starting.
Correct. It is not this week. And in order for that to happen, there has to be more issues with the offense. There have to be more struggles. There have to be more of the offensive line.
Or COVID.
Sure. That's another.
But you're talking about the game itself.
I wasn't even
talking about the scheme itself. Yeah, I know. I get it.
But yeah, my sense is somewhere along the line, Luke Doty gets a start.
Well, what we saw at LSU was the offense. The scheme was there, but it was like in the twilight zone. It was, hey, he's open, throw it, sack. That if you see more and more of if you see more of that Mike Bobo's probably going to be a little bit more prone to let me try to find a gunslinger mentality over here on the sideline, whether that's Ryan, whether that's Luke, whatever it is. I would think that Ryan would probably maybe get the start, but Luke Doty would be, kind of that equalizer guy, that the wrinkles guy as they're calling him. I'm going to say no. I think Colin Hill starts all 10 games in the regular season for South Carolina, just based on what I know about Mike Bobo and Will Muschamp and their I don't want to say unwillingness to move away from somebody that they're comfortable with. I do think Colin Hill has a better game this week. I think he kind of gets back on track. But I'm gonna say no. We already mentioned this earlier. Does Trevor Lawrence win the Heisman Trophy? Your vote is yes or no.
My vote is no. My vote a week ago was yes. My vote now is no. And like we talked about, without the stage Saturday night, which is the same stage that guys like Mac Jones will have and will play on, and Justin Fields has had and will continue to have. He needs that stage because it's a popularity contest.
Right.
He won't win it.
I agree with you. I don't think he'll win it either. I think 2 weeks ago I would have said, at this point in time, I don't think that Justin Fields has enough. I didn't think that Mac Jones would be as consistent as he's been. Mac Jones is and should be the leader right now to win the Heisman Trophy. Even with those great wideouts down there, someone's still got to get him the football.
Yep.
And he's been doing that as well as we've seen any Alabama quarterback, believe it or not, do that in history. It's been something special to watch. I don't think Trevor Lawrence will win the Heisman Trophy, although I do think he'll be at the ceremony.
Oh, he'll be in New York.
Yeah.
He'll be in New York.
He won't win.
And I would hope that the Heisman Trust has ETN up there as well. But if he's far
he deserves
enough,
it.
Yeah, but if he's far enough back and he really has no shot, then he won't be there.
How on planet Earth are you the all-time leading rusher in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference? And it's like people don't even acknowledge you should be in the Heisman race.
Yeah.
It's baffling.
He almost gets overlooked. Not almost. He completely gets overlooked.
And I think Clemson has misused him at times this year, to be honest with you. I think they've missed some major opportunities for him to get his numbers even higher. But
trying to find ways to get him the ball. That's what we saw Saturday. They couldn't just run it right at Boston College. Find ways to get him the ball, get it to him in the flat, be the receiver that you have worked hard to be, and that's the way that they're trying to get him the ball right now.
All right, and finally, our final yes/no vote. Darren and I have disagreed on one of these.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if this one's tough. Will Coastal Carolina go undefeated in the regular season in 2020? They're 6-0, 4-0 in the Sun Belt. They're ranked 15th in the country. There's no way you could, with a straight face, say you saw coming Saturday what happened. 51-0 over in Atlanta against Georgia State. Georgia State and Sean Elliott have a wonderful offense. They didn't score a point, guys. And that was of everything that's happened this year. That's one of my top shockers when I look at the score and go, what?
Yep.
They got South Alabama coming up. They got to go to Troy on November the 14th. That's a 4-2 Troy team. Could be a tricky ball game. There's App State waiting in the wings on November the 21st. And then they got to go to Texas State. And they got Liberty.
There you go.
The final game of the season. But that game is at home in Myrtle Beach. Does Coastal go undefeated? They got 5 left.
If you missed it yesterday, sign up to be a part of our season ticket holder package and listen to our conversation with Rini and Golia. Rini is an ESPN analyst. He will be on the call for Coastal this weekend, and I think it's the 3rd time or the 4th time that he will have had them already this year. Coastal Carolina will not go undefeated. They haven't been tested yet.
Okay.
They haven't faced the adversity yet. So
what about Lafayette, though? That was a win at Lafayette, 30-27.
Yes, but they haven't really had their backs up against the wall. I mean, that they were never trailing big in that game. That was kind of a back and forth type thing.
Okay.
And now his point was, this is a team that's playing with so much fun and so much enthusiasm, and they're able to look past the coverage they're getting. They're able to look past the press clippings. He said, look, beware of a night game. Are you going to start paying attention to what people are saying? Are you going to start listening to them? Remember, DJ Uiagalelei, Clemson's freshman star, he blocks his own father on Twitter because he doesn't want to see these positive things creep into his head. I think somewhere along the line, Coastal does trip up. I think it's either App or Liberty.
Ooh.
And I think it's probably one of those two. Although, if you ask me who the better team is, Coastal's the better team than both of them.
Okay.
But I do think at some point they trip up.
Well, they got. I don't want to say it's lucky. It's just kind of the way it's unfolded. But that App State game, they are lucky having to play that game in Conway on November the 21st, as opposed to Boone, North Carolina.
Yep.
On November the 21st, you're not going to have to deal with some 20-degree snowstorm or something like that could possibly blow through the mountains up there. You're going to be down here close to the beach. Weather's going to be a little bit different. And I still think at that point in time they'll be undefeated going into that game, I think. But App State, coming off that loss against Marshall, 52-21, 41-17, 31-13. They've got things rolling. They got Texas State this weekend on the road at Texas State, who's not good. Only 1-7 on the year.
Two things about Coastal Carolina, maybe three here, that I wasn't aware of. And again, be a season ticket holder. It's $5 a month. You can pull it off. And all of the content you missed from a given show will then be there for you and only for you, coming right into your inbox. And part of our conversation yesterday with Rini, he pointed out something I did not realize. Coastal Carolina got all 15 of their spring practices in. That was immensely helpful for a redshirt freshman, Grayson McCall, to become not only more comfortable in the offense, but to grow up a little bit, maybe a little bit immature last year when he redshirted. The other thing is you see Coastal, and it's all about the offense and what they're doing. But, yeah, they shut out Georgia State. Some of these numbers, 5th nationally in third down defense. Mm-hmm. They have the 5th fewest penalties per game in the country. They have the 6th best passing defense in the country and the 15th best scoring defense in the country. The defense is legit. They're legit. They may be a little undersized, but they're legit.
Well, you and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago. Could this be the next App State? Could this be the next Central Florida? Could this be the next Memphis?
Yes.
Of course it can.
Yep.
They absolutely can be. And they're in an area of the country where they can draw enough big non-cons. They can draw the NC States or the North Carolinas, the South Carolinas, the whomevers of the world on their schedule and have a chance to knock off somebody and continue to prove that they're a group of 5 team that should have a say in some type of postseason matchup somewhere. Are they a playoff team? No, they're not a playoff team. They're not going to be in the playoff. But could they draw a nice bowl game at the end of the year with a great chance to beat somebody? Yeah, they can. If they go undefeated, they certainly are.
Gene Sapikov had it out 2 weeks ago about, hey, are they going to be in the New York Six? It was all a New Year's Six. It was almost tongue-in-cheek. But if you keep winning, then, yeah, you can be. And, again, that was part of the conversation with Rini yesterday as well. So be a season ticket holder. You can get that. Can Coastal become that level? How has the Sun Belt become this conference that suddenly is loaded with talent? There's plenty in that conversation.
Yeah, Coastal has done a wonderful job with facilities as well. Keeping our eyes on the NFL trade deadline today. We'll see if Stephon Gilmore is moved 2.5 hours until that deadline hits at 4 p.m. Eastern. Stephon has put his house up for sale up there in the New England area. It appears New England says that they want a player, in basically a straight trade. Mm-hmm. No shocker there, right? They also want a first-round draft pick in this next draft for Stephon Gilmore and a player of the quality that they're looking for. No specifics on that.
But, no, that's not how. You're not getting a first-round pick and a player.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Stephon is as widely regarded as the best corner in football, but we'll keep our eyes on that with the trade deadline approaching. Gene Sapikov is approaching. Coming up next, actually, in this final segment on JB and Goldwater, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, we also have some quick Major League Baseball notes to dish out before we leave town or before we leave the show today.
You leaving town again?
Nah. One of them you'll want to hear. 2 of them you'll really want to hear. One has to do with Honus Wagner, and one has to do with John Lester, as they used to call him up there in Boston. So hang tight.
As they used to call him.
Gene Sapikov up next.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right, you get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Family Bingo Night is back. All 3 Dog and Duck locations. Every Monday from 6 to 8 is the perfect time to bring the kids, have dinner, and play bingo. They've upped the prizes with retail store gift cards, gas cards, in-house cash cards, and kid-friendly gift cards like Nintendo, pizza, App Store, and more. Thanks for supporting local businesses like the Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and online.
I've been from Tucson to Conquering to Hatchapeta, apart. I've driven every kind of rig that's ever been made. I've driven the back road so I wouldn't get away. And if you give me weed, whites, and wine.
Off the new Couch Covers album coming up December the 4th. Patrick Davis, who will be here next Friday night, November the 13th, at a socially distanced Charleston Music Hall. It's an album release party. We hope that you'll join us. Head to patrickdavismusic.com. You and I still have to give away a pair of tickets to that.
That's right.
Which we will do.
Become a member of our season ticket holder club, and you are eligible for that. We've been pushing that since last week as well. Extended the deadline a little bit to the end of this week. So tickets, car detailing packages, bourbon and whiskey club,
Gamecock Talk.
Yeah, Gamecock Talk as well. Exclusive content.
Yep.
Gene Sapikoff.
Yeah, Gene. We'll plug Gene in there. I'll tell you what, though. I got beef with Gene. I'm tired of getting these 8x10 cards in my mailbox every day. Vote for Gene. Vote for Gene. I'm not voting for Gene anymore. He's already won the National Sports Writer Awards. I don't need to vote for you anymore, Gene.
Thanks. I have watched just a little bit of news today so that I can sprinkle some perspective onto this overemphasis of sports that we have this week in our country. But,
Stick to sports.
Sometimes you have to check out the news, and just in case there's like some national contests going on or local contests, whatever they call it.
Yeah, I've heard something about it.
Yeah, there is. It is a contest.
Yeah.
They're going to announce a winner at some point in time the next 6 months.
You know what the best contest is? Which television station can pull every single one of the ads off of my TV fastest come tomorrow?
Oh, my gosh, amen.
Oh, jeez. In every corner, in every town in America. I just got back from Delaware. It's worse up there.
It can't be.
Well, no, it is. You know why? Because Joe Biden's from Delaware.
Oh.
So in Delaware, you have, this yard is just all Biden stuff, and then the neighbor's like, he's all Trump stuff. I mean, it's so polarizing. It's crazy. But we love you, Gene. Thanks for hanging with us. Hey, real quick, I'll let you vote. You can vote on our show too. You have to disclose these votes though. Will Coastal Carolina go undefeated this year in the regular season?
I don't think so, because of the respect that I have for App State, Troy, South Alabama. I mean, that 51-0 beatdown they applied to a really well coached, pretty good Sean Elliott Georgia State team was darn impressive, but. App State, wow, that's going to be a tough out. And here's the game that should be the toughest. I mean, right now it projects, as you guys know, that we have a top 25 battle headed for Conway on December 12th when Liberty comes to town, number 25 against number 15. And, boy, Hugh Freeze has the Flames rolling.
Just like we all thought. Top 25 matchup in Conway.
Let me ask you this. I'll have to go back and look this up. Maybe this is something for Gene. And I love Sean Elliott as a person, and I love him as a coach. But as Sean Elliott, since he became interim coach at South Carolina and then now on to being the head coach at Georgia State, has he ever beaten a team from South Carolina? I remember the first team he played for South Carolina was the Citadel, and they lost.
I don't know. That's a tough one. But I will say this about Coach Elliott. They won at Tennessee last year. Yeah. They handily beat East Carolina this year. I know East Carolina under Mike Houston is rebuilding, but he's doing a really nice job building a cool program there at Georgia State, but they sure ran into a Chanticleer buzzsaw the other day.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, they're undefeated, ranked 15th in the country. It's just been really, really something to see. All right, next one, Gene. Does Trevor Lawrence win the Heisman Trophy? Oh, you're a voter.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I mean, this second, I think I actually would call him the favorite, and here's why. He's still, even missing 2 games, is going to play as many games as anyone in the Big Ten probably. Fields might end up with 1 more game, I think, trying to do the math. Definitely, no competition from anybody in the Big 12 or the Pac-12 because of either them not being that productive, although I love Sam Ellinger at Texas, or not playing enough games. So then I guess it comes down to, Mac Jones and Justin Fields, who's terrific. And I can't believe that Travis Etienne is still a 50-1, favorite or unfavorite in Las Vegas this week.
Well, I agree with that. My apprehension, because I said my answer to that is no, and here's the reason why. And this is just based on what we know today. Mac Jones, in 2 games against Texas A&M and Georgia, has thrown for almost 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, and his completion percentage combined in those 2 games is 75%. And Trevor Lawrence, if he would have just missed the Boston College game, no big deal. But he's missing the stage that is 7:30 on NBC on Saturday night at 4th-ranked Notre Dame, and that's what worries me. That's outside. You got Florida State after that. You got Pittsburgh, you got Virginia Tech. None of them are going to be the stage at 4th-ranked Notre Dame in South Bend.
Yep.
Well, that's a good point. And, Mac Jones is definitely in the driver's seat. I thought Justin Fields played differently and well against Penn State. I mean, people on Twitter have been hitting me saying, why do you think Penn State's good? Well, I do. I just do still. I mean, Ohio State's terrific, and maybe Indiana is pretty darn good too. So, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, it's going to be, I normally would say, guys, like, hey, this is 2 races. 1, who's going to win the Heisman? 2, which 3 or 4 guys are going to get to go to New York? Sadly, no one's going to New York. It's going to be done virtually this year, so that's off the table, which is kind of too bad for some of those runner-up type guys.
I'll say that don't feel bad about thinking Penn State was going to be good, because there were a lot of positive thoughts about Penn State coming into the year, but now down 2 running backs. Justin Fields played, for my money, even though the numbers may not say it, he played better against Penn State than he did against Nebraska for a number of different reasons. And it's possible that what Ohio State showed against Penn State is similar to like Clemson in the ACC. I mean, the game wasn't even as close as the score. Penn State got pushed all around, and it's possible that's more indicative of just how good Ohio State might be.
Well, I think you might be right, Darren. And, Fields, he just looks like a focused guy that's just gone back and worked on some things. And that obviously what stuck with him is Nolan Turner intercepting the ball in the end zone as Ohio State's going for the winning score against Clemson. And I think, similarly, Trevor Lawrence, his first college loss, he just looked dazed after that LSU game. And he came back a little bit different player, which in both cases, Fields and Lawrence, is scary.
Yep.
Real quick note, I want to add to this Big Ten conversation before we get into Notre Dame and Clemson that Wisconsin did announce today that their game this weekend against Purdue is canceled. and team activities remain paused. So Wisconsin's already lost 2 games. We'll see if maybe they'll find a way, the Big Ten, to remove that. No, you don't think so?
No way.
That final seed game. That's 7-7.
I thought you were going to say if they'll be able to like play a non-con.
No.
Okay.
That last game that's going to be 6 seed versus 6 seed, whatever it is. Maybe they'll find a way to just do away with that and let people get extra games in. All right, Gene, let's talk about Notre Dame. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I wrote the Big Ten office this morning in a Western Union Dispatch and suggested 7-inning doubleheaders, but they haven't got back.
The weather's perfect for it. You don't want to be playing baseball up there anyway.
No, 7th-inning doubleheaders. Yeah, everybody loves those. All right, so let's talk about Clemson and Notre Dame. This is, wow. This is incredible. Only a couple weeks ago, Gene, we might have even brought you in on this conversation when we had you on the air. Darren and I were both kind of going back and forth, taunting the Irish almost. Do you really think they're number 3 in the country? No. Do you? No. But here they are, number 4, and that's because Ohio State has come back into the mix, and they're up there at number 3. They have played better the last couple of weeks since that really lousy 12-7 win against Louisville. And now you got Clemson without Lawrence, without Skalski, and everybody's all hyped up, and they should be, about DJ Uiagalelei.
Close.
Whatever.
Uiagalelei.
I like what
You nailed it.
DJ U. But he is also still a true freshman on the road in South Bend at night, Gene. I can't imagine it's going to be very warm up there. The history, all the drama of playing in Notre Dame. Is this kid seems to be able to handle the moment, but is this moment bigger than him right now?
I think he can handle it. Weather is going to be in the 50s, and there's not going to be many fans there. If it was a sold-out place and it was like in the low 30s, that could be trouble. But he said he's played yesterday in weather in the mid-30s. I don't know what part of California that was or where that was, but he said he did. I'm more worried about the Clemson defense. You're talking about no Skalski for sure. And Dabo said just a few hours ago that it's not going to be known until practice today whether their other good linebacker, Mike Jones Jr., and their best defensive lineman, Tyler Davis, will be available. Plus, Xavier Thomas, a really good defensive end, is out for the first half because of a targeting call late in the Boston College victory. That's a lot to lose on defense. I don't care how deep you are when you're going up against Notre Dame, Ian Book, a good offensive coordinator, and Tommy Rees.
That's a great point. And you're also, you're going to throw DJU out there against a Notre Dame defense that's really good as well. Gene, they're really good. Is this the best defense that Clemson will see this year?
No doubt. At least in the regular year and ACC championship game for sure. Miami had some good players, but they didn't have thoroughly as good of a defense. And that safety, Kyle Hamilton, if you haven't watched him play, is ridiculous. He's John Lynch or something, or Ed Reed back there. He just does everything. Blitz, intercept, make tremendous bone-jarring tackles. And Clemson's going to have their hands full there. Again, very well coached and on the road. But I think they'll have answers, and it's going to be interesting. We almost all are sure that this is going to be the first game of a Notre Dame-Clemson doubleheader this season.
Right. Gene Sabikoff is with us. I agree with you here. I agree it's the defense. And then on the other side of things, when just going through some Notre Dame numbers this week, they've got 8 tackles for loss a game. Their rushing defense is one of the best there is in the country. So if Clemson is struggling to get any type of push and struggling to give ETN the ball in conventional type manners, then that's even more on DJ. And I think that, to me right there, that offensive line is something that we'll have to watch the entire game to see whether Clemson, and it's hard to believe it's true, but it is, to see whether or not they can control that line of scrimmage and get a little bit of a push.
Well, and Darren, they have not been able to do that nearly as well this year.
Right.
Their yards per carry is almost 2 yards down from about 6.4 to 4.7 or something from last year. But teams have tried to take away ETN in the past. Ohio State did a terrific job against it in the Fiesta Bowl. That's the last time Clemson saw a defense like that. But yet they throw the ball to ETN, and he beats them in the receiving game, and Trevor Lawrence beats him with his legs. We've already seen what DJ Uiagalelei can do with his legs. That 30-yard run on 4th and 1 was just a thing of beauty against Boston College.
on Twitter at Sapikoff. Somebody check with Channel 2. Brendan Clark is the backup quarterback now at Notre Dame. I was looking I was looking, through a bunch of Notre Dame statistics and kind of this morning kind of going back and trying to revisit all the games they played in, and I'm glad I did because we all know they run the football well. 220, 30 some odd yards a game. They really run the football well, and that takes a lot off of Ian Book. He's not the most accurate guy out there, but he's capable. Here's what I did notice. In 6 games, Ian Book has 51 carries for 212 yards. Gene, that is a good – you wouldn't think of Ian Book as a guy who runs the football well, but I think it's more the scheme that the Irish run that allows him to be successful. He's got 5 touchdowns as well. So, theoretically, he's kind of considered a dual-threat quarterback when you look at those numbers. Brent Venables has done well against dual-threat quarterbacks in his career as a DC.
Yeah, Ian Book is smart. I specifically asked Dabo about that today, and he just went on and on about how much Ian Book has improved since his freshman year performance, a 30-3 loss to Clemson in Dallas at the Fiesta Bowl. And so, yeah, he's kind of sneaky fast, but just a really cerebral guy in when he chooses to run and not.
What should the Tigers be most fearful of this weekend? Is it something specific to the game itself? Or is it the environment? Is it the fact that they have major, injuries or players out, I guess, in Trevor's case? What is it that is most concerning to you?
They've had trouble with starts at times. I mean, sometimes just a little thing like a fumble by ETN first drive against Georgia Tech. They end up winning 73-7. They got ahead 17-0 against Syracuse, and then things kind of fell apart, but really got in a hole against BC. I think if they got in too much of a hole and you're saying, DJ, go get him, buddy, that could be a problem because then it allows Notre Dame to do some different things to really try to confuse him rather than Clemson and offensive coordinator Tony Elliott kind of trying to control the tempo and the action.
Yeah, you're spot on there. You're absolutely spot. He had a lot of, I'm not going to say easy because that is a really poor word when it comes to playing college football, but he had a lot of very capable throws to make to get into the rhythm last week. That is not going to be the case this week against the Irish.
No, you're absolutely right. You're just not going to get guys running that free and open. When you play an elite team, you don't see that. And you don't see that against the top 2/3 of the SEC teams either. So that's going to be a real challenge for him to put that into windows. But, he just might be able to do it.
Yeah. So Stetson Bennett, and I'm comparing him in a very odd way and probably wrongfully so to Uiagalelei here. And here's why. Because Stetson has steadily gone in the wrong direction for Georgia as teams are kind of figuring out exactly what he can do. Uiagalelei is supremely more talented than Stetson Bennett is. And I would imagine that some schemes that may work against one might not work against DJ. But how much can Notre Dame take from what they did see? They've got a game of film on this kid now. How much can they take from that and use it to their benefit on Saturday?
I think, Darren, it's hugely advantageous to see that, yes, oh my gosh, this guy can scoot around the end when you think it's coming up the middle on 4th and 1, and he's got a rocket to throw the ball over the middle. They've seen this on tape now, and they can make some adjustments, but it's really more to Clemson's benefit to know Clemson's players on offense, this guy can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he can do it with his legs or his arm, and he's really ridiculously poised. I mean, you can tell that watching him on the field or talking to him in the Zoom interview.
All right, Gene, final yes-no vote here on this beautiful afternoon, Election Day here, 2020. Woo. Does anybody besides Colin Hill start a game for South Carolina this season?
That's a tough one. So, if the season goes well, probably not. And if the season doesn't go well, you'd think probably so. But what I think ideally you'd like to do, even if you were going to want to get some guys some time, is, bring them in later in the game maybe. I don't know. You get the free redshirt year, and I asked Muschamp about that today, how nice is that for a program like yours to not have to make any decisions on redshirting the young players? And he said, huge. So I think that, like, with a guy like Doty, you're not burning his redshirt year or anything like that. And so maybe they do give him a start, knowing that could be a positive thing for next year. But wow, so many decisions on these rosters, not just for the Gamecocks, but for all teams. Like, does Colin Hill come back next year? I don't know. Has he specifically addressed that yet? I'm not sure. I mean, they could have a pretty interesting quarterback room next year if he does.
It's 7th-ranked A&M this weekend, under the lights, 7 o'clock on ESPN at Williams-Brice Stadium. Gene, this is a winnable game for South Carolina, so I do – I want to get your take on this game and how winnable it actually is. I would like to point out, even with that horrible loss to LSU, hope folks remember that's just one game. And if Will Muschamp and the Gamecocks win this week, they'll be 3-3 with 2 top 15 wins of those 3 victories this year for Carolina. What would that mean moving forward with Ole Miss, Missouri, Georgia, and Kentucky left on the schedule?
If they win, it would just be massive, and we go so back and forth.
Yeah.
Like after the Auburn game, hey, every game on the schedule is winnable. And after the LSU loss to a pretty bad defense in Baton Rouge is like, I don't know if they're going to win another game. But to beat the Aggies, which the Aggies think they're in the national championship mix still, if they can run the table, and that only losses to Alabama. But I'll tell you what, I think this game is going to be like the political analysts say, Florida, 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 or Pennsylvania or whatever. This is going to be a lot about tight ends. Jimbo Fisher loves throwing to his tight end. He has just a great one, and Jalen Wiedemeyer plus some other guys. Remember how Jay Sternberger just owned the Gamecocks. But South Carolina, Nick Muse, and now Mullins, 2 catches for 101 yards in his hello to the SEC game there at LSU. Again, I asked Muschamp about that, and he was raving about Mullins and his talent. You get those 2 guys involved, and Bobo's been playing a lot of 2 tight end with a fullback sometime, Prentice in there. I think that's the way to keep the ball out of Kellen Mond's hands.
What was Will Muschamp like today at the press conference? We listened in on a little bit of it. He I don't want to call him chippy, but he seemed short.
Yeah, he was a smidge testy, and that's because they had 2 weeks to lick their wounds from a pretty difficult loss at Baton Rouge. And then, he turns on the TV Saturday and sees that LSU is maybe worse than we thought. So that probably just added some more salt to the wound. So, yeah, he does not like losing, let's just say that. And that was reflected in some of his comments.
Gamecocks have not beaten the Aggies in 6 straight years since they've been playing this series. Can they truly pull it off Saturday night?
Probably not. Texas A&M is really good. I think they might be the second best team in the SEC, with all due respect to where Georgia and Florida are right now. He doesn't quite have it where he wants it, Jimbo Fisher, but pretty close. And I just think the Aggies are going to be a tough out right now.
A loss to A&M would put Carolina at 2-4, with Mississippi, Missouri, Georgia, Kentucky remaining. What would that mean to this program? Can they still have a decent year after a loss, giving them sitting there at 2-4?
Well, yes, and I think then those games upcoming, which in order are Ole Miss and on the road and Missouri at home, are the 2 key ones. Those will be winnable games. They're probably games they're going to have to just really outscore the other guys, as it kind of comes down to often for the Gamecocks. But I think that this game is big for South Carolina to play a competitive game. And, by that I mean a close game. And they're capable of doing it. Wow, Kevin Harris. Only Najee Harris of Alabama has been better than him this year. I mean, I know Isaiah Spiller of A&M is really good. And, obviously everybody likes, the freshman Tank Bigsby at Auburn. But Kevin Harris is ridiculous, and he doesn't have the offensive line that A&M and Alabama have. So get behind him, throw to the tight ends, keep the ball away from Kellen Mond.
535 yards through 5 games. That's 107 yards a game for Kevin Harris. 30 seconds. What's in the paper this week, Gene?
Wow, we've got so many things. But for me, tomorrow I'm ranking the 4 teams in our state at this point that have played college football this fall.
Ooh.
And then I've got a what I hope is a pretty good column on Friday on Nolan Turner, the Clemson safety, who his offers were Clemson and UAB, and now Dabo Swinney says he's the best safety Clemson's had in 18 years, and a definite NFL guy. So that's what we have. But yeah, we're going to have Josh Needleman at the Notre Dame game, and obviously David Cloninger, our ace Gamecock reporter, all over everything South Carolina this week.
Always fantastic stuff, Gene. Thank you so much. Happy Election Day. It's almost over, my friend.
Yeah.
On Twitter at Sapikoff.
Happy almost November 4th.
Yeah, exactly. That should be the holiday, November 4th. PostandCourier.com for more. Gene, thanks, brother.
Thanks so much, guys.
Right. It is also National Sandwich Day. Get a sandwich at DB's Cheesesteaks.
Sandwiches are good.
By the way, one of my favorite sandwiches in the world, I finally got to have it again this week because I was up there in the Northeast. An Italian sub from Wawa.
Oh, yeah. Wawa. So, are you a Wawa guy or a Sheetz guy?
No, I'm a Wawa guy.
I'm a Sheetz guy.
I love Wawa.
They're very, very similar.
They are. I love Wawa.
But yeah, both of them are great.
Great. Love Wawa. We didn't get into the baseball stuff. We'll tell you about that tomorrow. We're out of time. Spent all of our time with Gene.
Yeah.
Good person to spend time with.
Anticipate the trade deadline. That's the big news today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, trade deadline. Big news today in America. All right, for Gene, for Perry, and for Darren, I'm Jamie. Have a terrific Tuesday afternoon. Vote, vote, vote. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.